of good books. Let's welcome Nana Kwesi Jan Apente.
I don't know why everybody forgets I'm the Apejahine of Achim Eti. Don't forget. Well, I think tomorrow's headline is going to be "The Ahoys Can Sing," and that will be on the front page of the graphic. Professor Chairperson, illustrious children, this is the only time I can call Mr. Ato Ahoy a child without having a stone thrown at me. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I thank the authors of the book, Children of D13, South Suntresu Kumasi, and the publisher for involving me in this project and entrusting this task to me here this evening. I was privileged to read and wrote an opinion about it, which the authors have kindly incorporated as a foreword, and also used a quote from it as the blurb, the back page of the book. This means I can afford to be minimalist here, just do a short piece from it. And that also means that those here, when you get the book, don't say, oh, we've already heard Nana Jana Pentin, so you skip my page. When you get the book, read my page first. When I got the manuscript, and you know, when the chairperson is a professor of English, it makes my work quite difficult. Next time, if you know you bring a professor of English, don't invite me to review. But when I got the manuscript, I was astonished by the audacity of the project as a literary assignment. The technical challenge was this: 7 people writing a collective biography. So I thought they would each have written their biographies and put them together in a kind of anthology. That would be quite easy to do, but I knew that would have its own challenges. For example, if it was like that, somebody would take the book and decide to read the story of their favorite Ahoy or their favorite Ejujemfi. I would have gone straight to read the part about Mrs. Bramlabi. I would like to see how she met her husband. My initial concern turned to worry when I realized that they had actually chosen the more difficult option, which is to mesh the story into one seamless narrative. And indeed, to do it in a coordinated combination of first and third person voices appeared to be a daunting task. Therefore, I can confess to you that I thought the book was going to be either too heavy or a little bit disjointed. I'm very happy to say that it has worked marvelously. It's a seamless story. It reads more like a thriller than a biography. The collective noun, known as the Ahoys, is deeply embedded in about 3 decades of our country's recent history. Their individual stories would capture our national attention had they decided to do each as a standalone biography. However, that wouldn't even guarantee that the collective biography would succeed. So to actually achieve the purpose and turn it from a project into an enthralling reading experience deserves all the plaudits this book is likely to gather. So first things first, let's understand what this book is about. It's a collection of life stories of the 7 children of Madame Maya Charlotte Hudson, also known as A.C. Tutua, but known to some people as A.C. Nkwaje. Her different names and their provenances are all explained in the book, and very interesting too. To the world, however, she was almost universally known as the mother of the Ahoys. The Ahoys principally is the collective name of the 3 brothers, Ato Kwesi and Kwamina, who have played prominent roles in the country's recent history. But the siblings also include 4 girls, who have also played their part in this country and are part of this thrilling story in their own unique ways. For a collective recall of personal histories to work, a principal requirement is a willingness of all parties involved to treat the project seriously. Of equal importance is the need to treat each person's history as important, which is what this book has succeeded in doing. It would be right to describe it as an exercise in literary democracy. Of course, it's not every good project that produces a good book, but this has done so because at the heart of the project is a good story. And at the heart of that good story is human progress against all the odds captured in the lives of these 7 individuals. So, these are the dramatis personae in order of appearance from the womb. They are, I'm referring to the children. Atu Ahoy, you say present, sir. Kwesi Ahoy, Mrs. Amachum, Kwamina Ahoy, Mrs. Ama Aduma Batel Skujo, Mrs. Efua Bramlabi, Mrs. Agnes Apieje Danka, all are present. Thank you. An 8th sibling, Theodora Nana Edujemfi, sadly passed away at the young age of 27, and so her role ends early, except in passing references. May her soul rest in peace. The structure of the narrative, which makes it possible to flow, is simply to follow the fortunes of these people sequentially in turn through the many phases of their development. But the person whose presence permeates the first part of the story is the matriarch, Mrs. Ahoy, who also became Mrs. Edujemfi. The story of this family can be seen from different thematic approaches, but they all hinge on the early death of Mr. J.K. Ahoy, the father of the Ahoys, when he was only 39 years old. His passing started a chain of events whose consequences echoed through the lives of the family like the vibrations of a tuning fork, setting the tone for both the tragedy and triumph. That is the story of this book. If this book was just the story of 7 collective authors, that would be interesting enough. But it is more than that. There is the politics, of course, you'd expect that. But by the time the reader is through with this book, she or he would come to have a better understanding of a slice of our life and society as it has evolved over the past 60 years. First of all, the reference to the physical and geographic site of the early action is significant. And I'm happy the current occupants of D13 are here. Suntresu was one of the first purpose-built estates in the country. Divided into north and south, they were made up of mostly semi-detached 2- and 3-bedroom houses, which were homes to middle-range public servants such as the Ahoys, whose father, Joseph Kobina, worked at the Department of Social Welfare. Interestingly, I discovered from this book that my own family lived there around the same period, and my father, who worked at the Auditor General's Department, at the time would have been a similar position to that of Mr. Ahoy. They both owned motorbikes, which they cherished very much. Secondly, the traditional custom by which Mr. Ahoy's relatives descended on their home after his passing and carted away every movable property or object is worth recounting, and it forms an important recollection of our social conflict in times of socio-economic transition, which is an ongoing process. That episode, in my mind, deserves a full book in its own right. This is what happened in the words of the authors. I quote, "One day, not too long after the death of Mr. J.K. Ahoy, his Sefi family descended on house number D13 led by no other person than his junior brother, Peter Kwesi Nyame Ahoy, who had been living in house D13 with J.K. Ahoy, his wife and children. They carted away all the chattel in the house. These included the furniture in the hall, the beds in the bedroom, the mats the children slept on, the buckets they used to bathe from, and virtually every other movable property that could be carted away. They even took away the rediffusion box. The younger generation can see me later and I will explain what it is. But when they take that away, it is serious. They took away J.K. Ahoy's bookshelves, university books, his shoes and clothing, the children's books, as well as the children's indoor games such as Ludo, drafts, snake and ladders, Monopoly, and Oware. They carried away with them a half-sister, Lisbeth Araba Ahoy, whose mother was a Sefi, and J.K. Ahoy's relatives, Sewa and Ekuaba, who were living with the family in house number D13. Thanks to the intervention of the Department of Social Welfare, they could not take away the motorcycle, and house number D13 was also left for our mother. Overnight, so end of quote. Overnight, the family was thrown into destitution, and the struggles that ensued as Maya Charlotte had to look after her children almost single-handedly is the stuff of heroic legend. She did any kind of jobs, menial jobs, any job that would bring in some money to support her family. In time, she met and married Mr. Edu Jemfi, with whom she had 4 children, including Nana, who, as we know, left us early. The co-authors have rather been generous to Mr. Edu Jemfi than he deserves, in my opinion. Readers who are so disposed can pass their own judgment when they read the book. Thirdly, a big part of the book is dedicated to the educational, intellectual exploits of the children of House D13. To a man and woman, they were all blessed with good brains, which they put to full use. This was not surprising. Both of their fathers had good education, and although they were absent from the children's upbringing for different reasons, they must have bequeathed a large dollop of good genetic material to start with. And of course, the credit for their education must go to Maya Charlotte, who was herself a brilliant student at school. She passed a middle school leaving certificate examination, popularly known as Hall in those days, with distinction. By the time she achieved that rare feat, she had already caught the eye of a mathematics teacher, Mr. J.K. Ahoy, and was present with their first child, Mr. Atu Ahoy. Her intelligence and diligence translated into unparalleled resourcefulness and determination to ensure the success of her brood. The fourth social construct to which I want to call your attention is the obvious fact that this book shows that Ahoys were not born with a silver spoon, or at least the silver spoon was taken early from them. And they had to struggle to help their mother put food on the table. They had to struggle doing all kinds of jobs. You would be amazed when you get the book to know the kind of things they had to do to survive. But this is the kicker. They had their own silver spoon in the form of endowment such as their undoubted intelligence and also sibling solidarity. Where the world is more accustomed to the notion of sibling rivalry as a response to trauma and crisis, the Ahoys have done the opposite. And when I say Ahoys, I mean the Edu Jemfis as well. We are just using the collective term that we are, so it is not meant to exclude. They have stayed together and have done so to the present day. The story of how each child accepted responsibility for their younger siblings is a study in social organization of a type which was rare even when family meant something. Of course, the biographers generously acknowledge the help they got along the way, especially from the likes of Mr. W.K. Eduhene, who had been a minister in Kwame Nkrumah's government, and others. But Ato, as the earliest child, became paterfamilias, or acting father, and even put off his graduate studies in order to help the siblings as they got through their own education. It was through this system of solidarity and mutual help, more like handing over the baton to the next in a relay race, so that each child in turn took over some responsibility for the education and general welfare of the next in line. In this way, every one of these children achieved high levels of success, with all of them completing professional and postgraduate qualifications. All the siblings, of course, with the exception of Nana, have gone on to what appears to have blissful marriages. However, the important and noteworthy point is that even marriage has strengthened rather than weakened their bonds, as so often happens. Once again, what is it that holds these siblings together is so strong that they appear to have selected their spouses and friends from even within their own circles or pre-existing circles of friendship. The book details the respective careers of the siblings and their spouses, and it is obvious that they've not only made the best of the opportunities, but have also created their own opportunities when necessary. Between them, they have had careers spanning a broad sweep of activities in education, public service, politics, academia, development, management, diplomacy, and trade. They have definitely set the stage for the next generation of my Charlotte's clan. Naturally, a good part of this book is dedicated to the fortunes of this extraordinary family in politics, in government, and in opposition. Those who follow politics closely will benefit from the details of some of the cases that were prominent in the period of the first NPP government, when the siblings, as it were, had to endure opposition for the first time. The reader will not be surprised to learn that the tribulations of opposition is no respecter of person or clan. So how does this book work as a literary enterprise? It works very well. The authors provide painstaking detail of their lives, but the structure they adopted ensures that the reader is not bored, because it's a very interesting story. That is the secret. Secondly, the story is told with abundant humor. There are so many episodes that will make you put down the book and chuckle, laugh, or maybe laugh out loudly. My favorite is the one in which the youngest boy, Kwamina, was selling mori, kondo, fermented, in the streets of Suntresu, and a monkey decided to harass him. I mean, I love that scene for reasons I cannot share, but I wish that monkey was still here to harass. Such cinematic description of these instances draw the attention of the reader to aspects of how we lived life in Ghana in the years that now constitute our history. It was common to see children hawking goods to help defray some of the family's living costs, but even by that standard, by the standards of those times, the siblings appear to have had a hard time of it. And it all now appears rather incongruous in the light of their achievements. This book is highly readable because at the heart of it is a story we can relate to or maybe understand. One thing is certain, it will lead to a better understanding of ourselves, of our country. And as stated by our chairperson, a good biography, we always say, does not only concentrate on the immediate subject, but on the context, the background of their lives. So, in conclusion, one reason why this book has worked so well for me, I love it, is that it's a human story. It is not a story of a political or famous family writing an apologia. It is a story of dignity and warmth and human pain and pleasure, simply told without pathos or exaggeration. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to reveal a secret about this book to you before I take my seat. As you may have heard, the book is the collective biography of 7 siblings. That appears to be true, but I believe the 7 were only ghost writers. The real author of the book is not here this evening, but is watching us with keen interest. Her name is Madame Mai Charlotte Hudson, also known as Esi Nkwaji, but universally known as the mother of the Ahoys and the Edu-Jemfi siblings. Without her, none of this would be possible. Without her, there will be no book. She deserves our standing ovation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reviewer. Nana Kwesi Jana painting. I wanted to confirm his traditional title, Apejahini of Achim Eti. Thank you for the masterful review. Before the co-authors read favorite excerpts from the book, I'd like to acknowledge a couple more of our guests who are here. The Honorable Samuel Ofosu Ampofo is the chairman of the NDC. The Honorable Julius Deborah is the ex-chief of staff to President Mahama. Dr. Charles Eves Reko Brobe is here with us as well. And Nana Asari Ankuma Buama III, Asokori Kruntihini, is also here with us. Thank you. I shall acknowledge more after the reading of favorite excerpts, which will begin with Mrs. Agnes Epieje Danka, ne Edu-Jemfi. She's here to read a favorite excerpt from the book, to be followed by Mrs. Ifwa Bramlabi, ne Ahoy. So here comes Mrs. Agnes Epieje Danka. Yes.
Sister Agi's first encounter with officialdom at Tema Secondary School was with Mrs. Hackman, or Haki, when she went to get measured for her house frog, Tosa. Haki was in charge of all the orders for the girls' uniforms and was the house mistress for House 3. When Mrs. Hackman remembered her last name instantly, Sister Agi knew she was in trouble. She had heard that Haki loved terrorizing students, but she was lucky because she was not in House 3. Haki taught her fancy though, and it was not unusual to hear her shout, "Edu, come here," whenever their paths crossed. Sister Agi was a little lost in her first year on campus because she spoke no Ga, and Ga was the unofficial lingua franca among the girls in the dormitory, in the school generally. She, however, learned fast, and within a year could communicate in understandable Ga. Classrooms were assigned by height and not by age. The shortest students were in 1A and the tallest in 1D. Sister Agi was in 1D, which later became 1E when the student numbers increased. Sister Agi remembers how her music and mathematics teachers used to confuse her with a friend and used to shout, Edu Jensi of 1D, with her friend Ajimandria of 1C. The two of them wondered why, because they did not look alike, but concluded that it was because their last names appeared to rhyme. Mr. Ahin, the music master, was like a father to his students. He used to direct questions to Sister Agi, which were meant for Ajimandua. Yes, ta te ti ta he would shout as he made gestures with his hands. Mr. Danko was the mathematics teacher, taught nutrition, and Mademoiselle Kwao taught French.